apartments
all
in
the
this area
royal
go
guards, they
for
volunteer.
up to
There is a
$3
tradition
million
in many families
for
that
an
the oldest
apartment.
son office of Maersk Sea Line. So you see that obviously why these light blue containers. So the building is called the building with the light blue eyes. System, all that. So they contribute a lot.
They have
to that.
150,000 employees
From here across the harbour, we see the opera, full size,
shipping.
and you see the little harbour bus I explained to you about. Now people are getting off there with their bikes as well. Can transport, it's like a local bus. On the other side of the harbour, looks a bit like a military area. On land to your right, a black submarine. We have the grey frigate Peter Scram. And yes, it used to be a military area over there, where the Danish kings, through 300 years, they've had their warships built and maintained. That very special building, 1749, in front of the low yellowish building, it's a so-called mast crane. So they could lift the mast on, off, and put them back on again at spring. Then the frigate Peter Scram, the grey one, pride of warships in our little country in the 80s. And it was going to launch its first missile. Big, big thing. It blew up 5 summer houses.
Oh no.
So it got out of control, of course, and we was... The Danish flag, we cannot really see it. There's a flagpole to the left there. That's where we salute for the Danish flag. That is the official flag, and all other flags must be hoisted in accordance with that one there. Pavilions as waiting rooms before they bought their royal yacht, Dannebrog. She's not in the harbour right now. Family does use it to, do tours in the country to visit. Well, we have 400 islands, of which 80 are inhabited, so there are many harbours to visit throughout the country. The meaning of Copenhagen is the merchant's harbour, pronounced in the Danish language, Copenhagen. Copenhagen. Donated by Carlsberg, and Gefion, spelled G-E-F-I-O-N. What is that? Well, according to Nordic mythology, that was what we believed in here in Scandinavia before we got Christianed. So more than 1,000 years ago, we believed in her. So, for example, she persuaded the king to give her some more land. And he said, my dear, you can have some more land, but you have to work hard for it yourself. She accepted, and then she was a bit of a witch too. So she converted her 4 sons into 4 strong oxen, placed them in front of a plow and made them work for a whole day. Then she stood on the coast of Sweden, where you were yesterday, looked towards Denmark, lifted the big piece of land up into her strong arms, and then she threw it towards us. So it is the legend about how we got the biggest island in our country, called Zealand, or Sjælland in Danish, and that's where we all are now, on the biggest island in our country. And located next to the Gefion fountain is the Anglican Church, St. Albans Church. The material is flintstone and limestone. It is located in the Churchill Park, and this park was made in gratitude to our allied. Yeah, it's difficult to see him, but you can see just under the trees.
Oh, there he is. It's a bust of Winston Churchill in gratitude for liberating the Danes in World War II.
The Russians occupied one of our islands, Bornholm, from 45 to 46. And we're very concerned about this thing that you see here to your right. But there was an arson, so it burned down part of it, and we have not found the people who did it. But we are happy they did not steal anything, and we rescued all the important items, telling about the Nazi occupation times during the war.
World War II bunkers.
We were fortunate not to be bombed here, but of course air raid shelters were built to protect the people. And sometimes people had to seek shelter there because there was the alarm did go on. And after the war, they were too expensive for us to remove. So that's why we still have them. So the museum, they usually use them. So our children, when we are about 15 years old, we study about the Second World War. And you take, as a teacher, you bring your children down into the bunker to let them feel what it would have been like, you know, on their own body, to stay there for hours not knowing what was going on with your home and your family.
Probably kids from a nursery school.
Other bunkers we used to store beer because it's cold there, and we have heavy metal bands. They rehearse there, you know, they are noisy and nobody can hear, so it's really nice. Certification here to your right. It's a star-shaped moat and rampart system, and it has got a Dutch windmill on top of the ramparts.
Behind the trees.
And it is, if you closer look at it, Little Mermaid. That's a bit difficult for me, you know. I'm Danish, I love Hans Christian Andersen, but our children prefer the Walt Disney version when they have to see the Citadel. The old military buildings, 350 years old. Chief commander of the military lives in the yellowish building. 13, nobody paid attention to, another sculpture in Copenhagen. But then the tourism industry started 50s and 60s, and gradually she became more and more famous next to her. So you cannot really tell the size of her, but she's rather small.
And here is the Little Mermaid. And here we have the Little Mermaid, based on a story by Hans Christian Andersen. The mermaid saves the life of the prince, and then the prince, she falls in love with him, and he marries someone else. That's not the way Disney did it. It was not easy climbing up these steps to get to see the Little Mermaid. Cannas in Denmark. I expect to find them in Hawaii.
Erected to commemorate the men who lost their lives in the merchant fleet. That was during the First World War. It's a very nice residential area, but it was a dirty old freeport area. So it was not modern enough anymore. So we decided to move the freeport further out of the harbour, and then it gave us the possibility of renovating the old buildings and building new modern ones. Our Crown Princess Mary, when she moved to Denmark, her first home was in this area.
The cruise ship terminal.
You see the old office buildings to your left, and then you have these yellowish buildings. Maybe they do not look like much, but it's very high-end homes, and when you buy a home here, automatically you'll get room for your privately owned yacht, sailing or motorboat. You will see that so behind the buildings. And there you see
40% of the Copenhageners going to work ride bikes.
So smart. What did he look like? Well, we have a statue of him. Is on your right-hand side now.
Oh, these are kids going to school.
All different sizes, all the small ones
to school. Here's these
C4, Christian IV, we call him C4. C4, he built this area for his naval personnel. Still today, you can only get to live here if you work for the Danish military. The city was built on islets. We kept on filling up with garbage to enlarge the area, so many of our buildings are supported by oak poles, gradually sinking. Little charming street down here to your right, cobblestone street. Those small houses, that is considered really very, very nice neighborhood. And to live there, a house like that, that is 1.2 million US to buy a home. Small didn't like to live at Christiansborg. It was dirty. So 400 years ago, he built this park just for him, himself and his family. So nowadays, it is the public park, and it is located very close to Rosenborg Castle. And now here to your right, we see Rosenborg Castle from a distance.
Instead of using poison.
Sandstone ornamentation, so decorations on the building around the windows, and then the characteristic green roof, and all the small spires and towers. So built 400 years ago. The lawn in front here, where you can see the cars are parked, that is where the area where the royal guards, those who are not on duty now, that is where they sometimes they play soccer, football. If
These are
their
barracks
family,
for the Royal Guard.
the family lives in Copenhagen.
Here's some guys headed out.